Hey, hey, welcome.
I'm Damali.
And I'm Dagny. Welcome to another
Yes.
episode. And in this episode,
hmm
we are discussing a very important topic, as usual.
Yes, we are. hmm
We're going to start to speak on the recently concluded Megan Thee Stallion case with
Yes.
Tory Lanez and the violence that occurred. But in particular, speaking on how people, mainstream media, the industry responded as this case unfolded, and
hmm
broadening the scope on that in terms of discussing what we need to check ourselves on when it comes to how we respond, react, or even participate in when it comes to who society and possibly we define as an appropriate victim.
hmm
That's what we're doing. So,
Yes.
Damali, let's start. In
Yes.
terms of while this case was unfolding, how did you feel about the responses and the way in which the story was being showcased or possibly distorted?
I was very kind of surprised by all of the the only word I can use for it is vitriol.
Mm,
That's really the only word I can use. I remember first hearing about a party, and then there was a car, and then someone got shot, and then I remember Megan didn't say anything about it, and then Tori started talking about it, and then she talked about it, and then it became this huge thing. And then, of course, the whole case happened, and Megan was very quiet. And the two main things I was struck by, one was the vitriol and how people responded to it in a really unkind and very intense way.
mm,
Uh, and also, I was also struck when Megan finally returned to the scene, and you notice that she was very different now. Like
mm,
she wasn't posting as much anymore. She was much quieter now. I could even, I mean, I don't know her, but just from the photos, her, it just seems something had, I don't know if I don't know her, but something had almost like maybe died or something
mm,
in her eyes. It just seemed like there was like a light there that maybe had been kind of snuffed out, which I mean, obviously, because look what the horrible stuff that went down.
mm,
And then I was also struck by how even when the verdict came out for what happened with Tori and everything, that there was still so much vitriol like in the comments,
mm.
even though Megan was not saying anything. So that was really, I mean, I guess I say surprising, but I mean, this kind of thing does seem to happen, and it definitely makes us, I guess, makes me question how, like, what we're doing about how women, in particular, Black women, are seen and talked about in the media in America, and how it's kind of a that continues to come up, but I don't really see what we're doing about it.
Mhm, mhm.
So that's kind of my take, where I was just like, wow, he's what's going on here? Why are we attacking the person that got shot? I'm not sure I understand, you know?
Mhm, mhm.
And then what about you, Dagny? How did you feel when you first heard about this big, huge thing going on?
Yeah, I think initially when I heard that the incident had occurred, I was concerned for her as a person. I
hmm
too don't know her personally. I wouldn't say
Right.
I've listened to everything of her songs. And I think while listening on with this conversation, the bigger picture is about the person, not necessarily claiming whether or not you're a fan of her music or whether or not you're a fan of her public persona. The fact that a Black woman was shot and didn't, to me, just didn't seem she was did not receive the protection that she deserved. And it also the vitriol that you're speaking of, I took note that it just seemed to be even more amplified at a time when she was vulnerable. Because
hmm
prior to this, I would note that yeah, anytime if Megan is has come up or has an endorsement or something, everybody has something to say about why they don't like her or they're hating on her for some reason. And for me, since she is from Houston, and I do like I knew a little bit about her coming up because back when I was living in Houston, she was still doing EPs and freestyles and that sort of thing. She actually was also in college at that time too and stuff. And there was I felt like anytime people would note that they have an issue with her and stuff, when I would speak to them directly, I would take note that the issues they had with her really had more to do with they are triggered by her talent or by her light or by her choosing to take up space, as opposed to they have an issue with her because they did something to her, because she did something to them, or it's known that she's done something wrong to or harmed somebody else. And so I would always find it fascinating because when I would then bring up to them, like, oh, even before the case and after the incident, having direct conversations with people, when I would take note of like, but do you know she also has done this, is that, the other? Or do you know while blowing up in her career, she was still finishing up her college credits and actually did graduate and would come back to campus and set up scholarships and tutoring and all kinds of great stuff for her fellow classmates and students at the school. Like there's more to her than just this one music video and you have an issue with the music video or how she's dressed or whatever, which has nothing to do with you because she's still getting paid. So what's the problem? And so to
True.
me, I was like, there's just I don't understand this like clinging to where wait like it just seemed people were clinging to waiting for her to be put down
Taken
or
down.
tamed or taken down. But when she really was not, as far as I know, I don't know her personally, I don't see what harm she was causing other than taking up space. I get it because a lot of people, they weren't saying they don't like her because, oh, they don't agree with the lyrics or they don't agree with the persona. That wasn't what their issue was. It's just like, nah, she's just too loud, or nah, like why you gotta be like that? Like that was really the only issue. And so I feel that it does speak to the bigger conversation of how all of those types of comments are being made while the case was being unfolded and claiming, oh, well, there's no way she could be hurt. I mean, look how big she is, or look how tall she
Like,
is,
what
or
does that have to do with
look how
anything?
loud she is. Oh no, she must be lying because how could that possibly happen to her? And unfortunately, because this is, a US context, one cannot look at this without bringing up race, without
Yes.
bringing up that would y'all be doing that if she was a different ethnicity? Because there are tall women who are also Hispanic or white or Asian, or like, would you say the same thing if a tall white lady was shot by a short man? Would you say the same thing?
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Questionable.
know. I don't know. And then the added thing of the industry, of how people in the industry responded, the ones who chose to respond, and how many of them were also insisting that they actually are not supporting her at all. And actually, a lot more coming to the side of Tory Lanez, or like wanting to promote his music more or wanting to promote that sort of thing.
Yeah, as if it's a game or
As
something.
if exactly. And it just seemed very messy. It seemed like this is not simply just someone got shot. It seemed like this is something actually we're trying to pivot or shift the trajectory of her career, because it blew up in a way that it didn't need to blow up, as it didn't need to be on the news as much as it
Exactly.
was. Yeah, we didn't need to now bring up who her previous relationships were, who did she sleep with
But it's
before. What
nothing
does
to
that have to
do
do?
with what
Has
happened. Yeah.
nothing to do with the fact that she experienced violence and she deserves justice. But so to me, once that started happening, I took note that this is not just a simple case of you're dealing with somebody got shot. This obviously is a bigger thing of somebody has decided we're going to shift the trajectory of her career because now she's getting too big, and
Yeah.
we can't have that. And
No.
that saddened me because it showed that, okay, we still have quite a long way to go.
A lot of work to do.
we get so triggered by people who are gifted, are talented, are being loud about it, being unapologetic about it, and also carrying their community with them, like taking the success they have and bringing it back to their community. Why is that an issue? Why can't we allow that to continue to prosper? Why must we clip the wings of people who are supposed to soar? And why do we need to do it in such an ugly way to almost make sure they aren't embarrassed so they themselves will take themselves out of the race? Like you noted, where now it's like, yeah, she's more quiet. I think she's
She's
already
very
noted she's
quiet.
not really going to do music much for now. And she does that level of enthusiasm and energy that she was carrying before. We don't see it anymore. The few times you see her at a public event, she's very subdued looking kind of thing. And a part of that, of course, is like healing that still needs to be taking place, not only for the foot physically, but possibly also emotionally and mentally with what she went through.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree with that, where it's like people seem to be so triggered by people that are unapologetically themselves and are not hiding, and especially if they're Black and especially if they're female. It seems to be a big issue, and I do think it just always makes me think there's some weird political stuff going on, or because it makes me think of like the years ago when we had the Me Too movement, and that was a huge thing too, about like women standing up because of men doing this and Harvey Weinstein and all this stuff, and everyone was like, oh yes, women should get all of this, and then we have a man shoot a woman, and what happened to all those people that were supporting? I thought Me Too was about, oh, women should be. So I'm kind of like, wait, what? Like, and then, or also with all of like the shootings and the police on Black crime and all this stuff, and that it's, we're all about, no, we need to take down the police and blah 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 because of all this stuff happening. And in this case, there's no police in this case, and Megan actually didn't want to call the police because she's Black and Tori's Black, and obviously she knows that when you call the police, what do we think is going to happen, right? And so, and then to have this happen, it's kind of like, wait, then what? Then that changes the narrative. And what are we doing then? Like, so it's kind of like, is that, what is the metaphor? The cry? No, not the crying wolf. I forgot what metaphor I'm thinking of, but it's like, if only you do this thing, then we'll, like, if women do this, then we'll protect them. But if they do this other thing, then we won't. Or if you don't fit the perfect victim, then like, so it's like, if Megan wasn't as loud or something, then we would protect her, like, as if we're always trying to, like, you have to act a certain way, or it's always like, oh well, she's masculine, so she can just deal with it, and it's like, wait, that isn't, and then of course that brings me to think about the Amber Heard case, which was also a very gigantic case. I'm sure everyone is aware of it, and we compare that, and but I think I don't know everything about the case, but I think it was proven that she was lying a lot of the time, right? And you can fact check for me, but I think that's what came out. And the way people reacted to it versus how they reacted with Megan, it's a little strange to me. Megan didn't shoot anyone, right? Megan didn't hurt anyone. Megan didn't. So I'm not. And then people using all of these like things that have nothing to do with it, like, oh well, she slept with all these people, so, or because she was sleeping with Tori, so, or I think someone's like, oh well, she was drunk, so I'm like, so because you were drunk, it's okay to get shot in the foot? Like, I don't. And she was like hobbling and and bleeding. I don't get where she literally had, like, they took fragments out of her foot. I don't. What do you mean? Oh well, she's lying. Oh well, she was twerking the next day. Like, okay, what is that? I don't understand. It's like, I don't like. And I'm just like, and like, if it wasn't for, and then the person that shoots her starts making music about her, and then apparently she wasn't even going to say anything, and because I'm pretty sure if she wasn't famous, it would have. I mean, apparently the other friend that was the Kelsey girl and her, and they were all friends. So I think this is probably a thing where he shot her. They probably get into a huge fight, and we move on. Like, I feel like if she wasn't famous, it might not have gone, kind of thing. Because I mean, they were her friends, so she must know how they roll, and And I think other people have said too, where people are saying, oh, well, she's known to get drunk and loud at parties. She's known to get drunk at parties and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, but that still doesn't justify her getting shot in the foot. Like she literally got shot in the foot. I don't know why we're making it like that is what happened. And also, regardless of if like it was Tori that did it or Kelsey or someone else did it, regardless, it still doesn't justify the reaction to it. And especially like, I mean, we shouldn't be surprised, right, by Black men attacking Black women. That's the thing that happens a lot in media. We've seen that a lot. Where it's just not like on her side, and if a Black woman like stands up for herself or says something, she's seen as like masculine and like it's okay that it happened, you know. And I just think it's sad that it happened. I also think that it's sad that Megan can't pick better friends because it seems like her circle of friends clearly are not the way friends should act. I think Kelsey girl also, I think apparently she had things to say, and then when she got to court, she said she didn't recall anything at all. So I'm not sure with that. I also don't know her either, so I don't know why. But clearly there's other things happening behind the scenes as to why we're trying to bring Megan down. And they succeeded for this time, because at first Megan was all over the place. She was everywhere. She was doing this, she was doing that, da 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 da, and then all of a sudden, and right. And of course, that leads us to think about another artist that everyone knows very well. Janet Jackson comes to mind. I'm sure, I don't know how many of you, if you are around our age group, you'll remember. If you're Generation Z, you won't, because you were babies. But there was a time when the Super Bowl happened, and they were doing some kind of dancing thing. For some reason, Justin Timberlake was there, and then he removed a part of her clothes, and her boob was out, and it was a big deal. And Justin Timberlake did not get banned, and his career only flew and got better. But Janet was banned. She couldn't do what she wanted to do for years. She was kind of blacklisted.
Literally 20 years of her career.
20 years.
Yep.
Even though she didn't remove her clothing, Justin removed her clothing. I don't understand. Like, did she take his hand and remove the clothing, right? And so I remember it was 2004, I think, and it happened, and we were all like, oh, okay. And then all of a sudden she's blacklisted. Like, wait, what? Right? And and then 20 years later, now that Justin has made it, now he comes, oh, I'm going to apologize for what?
And I remember like, the added thing that occurred with that was that there was a certain executive, and I'm not going to say which company it was because I don't want to misquote and put a certain company under the bus. But there was a certain executive in one of these production channel companies who was the main person who signed off on blacklisting her and removing all of her endorsements and stuff. And I think he recently like died or something. And that's why now the information came out that it wasn't only because of the glitch that happened at the Super Bowl. It was actually a bigger thing that they decided she too was getting too big. Because up to that point, she too was all over the
everywhere
place and in movies and music and everything. And then decide to shoot her down as well. And it does. Okay, I'm just going to note that part. Was there anything else you want to say before I?
Oh yeah,
No.
Yeah. I was just going to say it's interesting how it seems a similar thing, but a lot worse, because literally Megan got shot in the foot. Okay, and it does make me think of this recurring thing of like, if you're too big or you don't act a certain way or you don't present yourself a certain way, then the media will take you down, and often it's your own friends or other, and in this case, it wasn't. Obviously, everyone's aware that America, especially in recent years, there's been this whole thing about white against black crime and police. It's a big thing. Obviously, it was even more exploded more during COVID. Everyone knows about America in that sense. But in this sense, it wasn't a white versus black thing, right? It was a black, and it was a man against a woman, and so why I don't understand I do understand, because politics is in everything, right? And then also like the Janet Jackson thing, where there was someone behind the scenes. I'm curious if that will happen too. Like something else will come out, someone behind the scenes that had an issue with Megan or I don't know what, and just did this happened, and this is why it exploded. So I think that this whole thing about women being silenced and the whole
Mhm.
victim turning to the villain seems to be a recurring thing. And I'm not sure what will happen with Megan now. I don't know how many years until she'll come back, and if she does come back, will it be as big as before, or will it be um some other you know issue that will come up again? Um, yeah, and of course we like pick and choose who we celebrate. Also, if people like, it's almost as if like if people fit something that we want, then it's okay. But if they don't fit, then no. And I also think of another person, Kiki Palmer,
Mm.
which I don't know if you've been following her, but I think
Mhm.
for her, the big thing was that she was with a guy. They were together for a while. She got pregnant. She had kids, had a
Mhm.
kid,
Yeah.
and then apparently she started dressing more.
Mhm.
She had a kid, so obviously her femininity situation
Yes.
is different now, right?
Yeah.
And so she's becoming louder and dressing a certain way that she wasn't before. And then I don't know all of what happened, but I think her boyfriend said something that
Yeah.
was disrespectful, I think, online.
No,
And people
he tweeted that, oh, you're a
for her. Yeah.
mom, though. Like
Ah,
claiming how
yeah.
she's dressed. You shouldn't dress like that because you're a
You
mom,
shouldn't
though.
dress like that,
Yeah.
right? And all these women are like, yeah, like some of them are like, no, you shouldn't dress. Why were you all up on Usher? I haven't seen the video. I'm not that into her
Okay.
business, so I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do know that people a lot of people were like celebrating her and being like, yeah, Kiki, you do try to
Mm.
do and
Mhm.
dress up. You're a mother, like you're doing all this stuff
Mhm.
and everything. And I suppose, I don't know, it's because she fits a certain like view that people like, or I don't know what. And so
Mhm.
it's fine, right? And it's, I don't know. It's like we celebrate Black women sometime and sometimes not. But in this one, it's more about celebrating like, oh yeah, but my man did me wrong, and we all know how that
Mhm.
is, and blah blah blah. Um, I don't know. It's just weird, and then it's kind of like, but a woman got shot, and we act like, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's strange. It's strange how
Mhm. Mhm.
act depending on who it
And
is or
to
who that person knows. Yeah,
right, yeah. So the to
yeah.
piggyback off of that,
What I just said.
of what you just said. No, but no, because I like the points you're making. So there's a few of them that I also wanted to
Mm,
respond or add to. So
yeah, and I love
firstly,
Megan. I love Kiki. I love both of them. But
yes, yeah. So first, speaking to
ugh.
the Me Too movement and
Yes.
how this relates to it. And I think this also connects to, at least from my perspective, when it comes to any of these labels, from Me Too, feminism, womanism,
Uh-huh.
misogynism, all the other isms. I've always had, and I don't know if it's because of the perspective of seeing it through US history in
Mm,
particular, where all of these labels have always and all these movements have always dismissed Black women or only
mm-hmm.
used Black women for clout or publicity. But when it's time to come to the table and be like, okay, now we're here, we've been rowdy and rioting or protesting. Now it's time to say, what do we need? And it's like, oh, we don't need to give that to Black women. They can get it some other time. It's fine. So, similar to the women's movement in the
Mm-hmm.
US, that is how Black women were treated, where it was a deal of you're only bringing Black women into it to march with you in the back of the line, not
Yep.
because you want Black women to also have the same rights as everybody else, but just so you can try to disentangle or uh, underhandedly
Another diss word.
disentangle the civil rights movement. So trying
Mm,
to get, because that movement was stronger because Black men and women were on the fore, Black families were together to be pushing that. So let's try and distract Black women to talk about women's rights instead. And you're a woman first before you're Black. So you should think about that first and remove
yeah.
yourself from the civil rights deal. Then when you come to the Me Too deal and all of a sudden everyone should be feminist wearing pussycat ears, and again, though, you choose that you're still not really giving that same respect to Black women. The Me Too
Yep.
thing was initially started by a Black woman as a community type initiative for assault survivors. It then gets hijacked because, again, Black women are not the appropriate victim. It gets hijacked. So now Hollywood is primarily speaking to the white women and what they say, what happened to them. And then that's it. And then again, if any other Black woman comes up saying something happened to them, well, are you sure though? But I mean, since you're usually drunk, well, you're usually loud.
Yeah.
Well, you usually dress like
and you're
that.
so strong.
Well, you usually,
so
and you're so strong and you're so big and you're so masculine, you know, so you couldn't possibly have an issue. But Tinkerbell over here, Tinkerbell has an issue, and that's the only person we're going to be looking at. And so to me, I've always had this issue of whenever you want to be somebody who, I feel like for me, I believe in equality for everybody. I do believe in like we need to be kind, more kind to everybody. There's more than enough room to improve on how kind we are to each other, how supportive we are to each other, how we check ourselves when it comes to prejudices and biases, and allowing certain people to be just run over under the bus because it's convenient. And I don't endorse needing to be clinging to a label in order to do that. Because I feel like you end up completely missing the mark, because then it's like, oh, it's just these feminists talking, so it's nothing. And it's like, well, then you've missed the mark, because already that label has been hijacked and is not fully helping who it's supposed to be helping. But that doesn't mean the issue is still at play, that where this whole, I don't want it to make it seem like it's only a gender issue. But because a man shot a woman, it is a gender issue for this particular thing, because that's the case. And if it was a man shot a man, would we still be dealing with it in this way? If one rapper shot another rapper in the foot and they're both men, are we going to deal with the case in the same way? Are we going to insist we need to know all the women they've slept with in order to figure out if they really got shot in the foot? I don't think so. If Megan Thee Stallion was a man. I don't think so. So that to me is like scoff, because I have an issue when people dismiss these sorts of conversations, making it seem like it's not really that big of a deal, and you're trying to create something that's not a big deal because you're too lost in these labels of movements that weren't really helping us. And I'm like, no. That's not what we're doing. So let's try and disentangle ourselves then from these labels, because obviously we've lost the real definition of them, because that's not where we're going. Then the next point about the personas of, oh, well, if these were just regular people instead of celebrities, it would have been dealt differently. I feel that like it does make sense that there seems to be like this ethics in persona when it comes to different industries. So yes, if these were two doctors and they were in an argument and one of them shot the other in the foot, we possibly would have done the case differently, because, you know, doctors are supposed to have a certain code. You're supposed to dress a certain way. You're supposed to have certain friends. You're supposed to live in a certain neighborhood. So we would be shocked if such a thing occurred, because that's not what they do, because, you know, they're doctors. So somehow their moral code is higher than everybody else. Insert any other so-called professional industry, because you have a certification in it. It's the same thing, whether it's the engineer or the lawyer or the pilot or whatever, you're supposed to carry yourself a certain way. While the entertainment industry does this funny thing, because even though those professional industries, they will claim that's what they're doing, but you still have doctors molesting their patients. You still have lawyers murdering people and know how to bury the body and you'll never find it. You still have engineers, you know, creating a problem. You still have pilots deciding to fly a different way. Like y'all are still doing different stuff, but because you maintain the persona of your code, it's just shocking and will make it seem, it's only that one bad apple. The rest of the industry is fine. But while the entertainment industry has this interesting thing where we want to maintain the illusion of a persona that we're all free and creative and we're all high on either love, narcotics, or the music, or all the above, and that's it. But in reality, this is a cutthroat business where some of you signed your contract in blood and others you signed your contract with something else. But there's no, like, we're trying to maintain that illusion of freedom when actually nobody in that industry is free unless they really fight to own their stuff, or unless they really
everything
own everything or be completely independent. So then that does go into what you noted about her circle of friends, where it's like this sort of violence, which is it's really a terrible thing. But unfortunately for some, it's quite normal. to happen among certain circles of regular people who are not celebrities,
Mhm.
especially in the US, where it seems like everybody has a gun because our gun laws are a bit different than the rest of the world. So arguments flaring up and people getting shot is like, yeah, it happens. It's a regular Tuesday. That's just the way it is.
Mhm.
The and But when you are at that status of being a celebrity, even though it's in entertainment and because it's in hip hop and the persona that you're maintaining is that we all have guns and hoes and violence and it's normal,
Mhm.
it's still a business.
Mhm.
So that is something that I noted of like, because you really are in the business, you do need to be smart and strategic about who your circle is. And so that
Yeah.
is something I hope for her, that noting that you can't just have friends for vibes sake, because your business can be harmed by that. Why
Mhm.
is it that your bodyguard was not in the car with you? And how is it that we can easily make him disappear when we need
Yeah,
him?
he's still gone. Where is he?
Where is he?
No
Because we
one
know
knows.
he's not dead. Where did he go? Because he was also some big guy too. How, like, how is it that you are in these circles that that sort of thing can happen when you're in this level of business where you have somebody like Beyonce on your track? It's like it's there's a mismatch of like, it's like almost that because she blew up so quickly, there wasn't enough time to cultivate that type of circle that would block stuff like this happening. Of like, no, now you need
Mhm.
different friends completely because you're at another level now. So these types of
Mhm.
people really can't roll with you anymore because they will hold you back or trip you up like they
Mhm.
ended up doing with this sort of thing. Not to disrespect her
Yeah.
circle or anything. I don't know all of her people, but it just
Yeah.
made it seem like if you're not really with real family in your inner circle or real people who understand the business, that's a liability when it comes to where you're trying to go with your deal. And so the bigger picture of that when it comes to protecting women and how, because we both are Black women, it is more potent, or we take note of it even more when we see other Black women being violated in public like this. One can't help, even though, yeah, no, we're not in that industry, but one can't help to feel like that could be any of us when unfortunately, it just seems every single time it's not she's not given the justice she deserves, or she's not given the protection she deserves, or it's not a deal of like, yo, this happened, oh, we're all pulling up. Like a Montgomery brawl type thing should have occurred where
Montgomery
everyone was
Brawl,
like,
like where
oh,
were the chairs? Where
exactly,
were the
where were the
chairs?
chairs to swing around and be like, you're not talking about our Megan like that, are you kidding me?
Mhm.
No, pull up.
Exactly.
Like that is what should have occurred when it didn't. And it does make one feel like I don't want to, I want to believe, trust and believe that the propaganda that we've been given, that Black women are the most disrespected demographic in the US, and that has seeped out into other parts of the world as well. I want to trust and believe that we're not. I want to trust and believe that other people do see our value, do see that we do need to be protected, do see that we
Yeah.
deserve to feel safe, to be soft too, that we don't always want to wear the pants, but we're also very good at wearing
Mhm.
the pants. And that should be fine, that we can do both. It, but when cases like this occur, in addition to how you noted with Kiki Palmer as well as Janet, it constantly further perpetuates this idea that, oh, it's just safer for us to always have our armor on because we really can't rely on anybody else to stand up for us or protect us when we are obviously disrespected or violated in public or in private.
Yeah, so as you said, to piggyback off of what you
Mm,
had said earlier,
indeed. Take
one
your
about the
pick.
thing about Megan and her friends, yes, I agree. The more, I mean, it's unfortunate because you know, like if you're a famous person and you still are the same person, you're not arrogant, it hasn't gone to your head. It makes sense that you want to keep your friends, right? Because they're your friends,
Mhm.
right? But I think that if you not only famous but also are so like there's so many things you're doing and so many things that your hands are in. She's doing music. I know she finished college, and I didn't know, I know that the different scholarships, the
Yeah.
thing about Cash App, she was trying to let
Financial
students know
literacy.
how
She
to,
was teaching.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and when you're doing all these things and you're getting higher and higher, you need to look at your friend circle and be kind of like, what do I, maybe I should try to, I maybe not like cut off everyone, but like try to introduce other friends or business people that can help you out, right? Because and also it's strange how I don't see, maybe it's just covered by all the vitriol, but I'm trying to see how many of the other famous people or other so-called friends she has came to her defense. How many of them stood up to say something. I maybe there have been people, but I haven't seen a lot of that. I see more people attacking her. I mean, maybe in
Right.
personally,
In private.
maybe
Yeah.
they're saying things like, I know someone was like, I don't know, was her bodyguard or some friend that was like, they were like, they had drinks or something, and they were celebrating the fact that, oh, okay, she, the verdict was out and blah blah blah. But still, I think, yeah, her circle of friends, and hopefully, I mean, it's sad, but I don't know what she's learned from this, but hopefully it does help her see that you have to be very careful about who you, and this is in all life,
Yes.
be careful who you are surrounding yourself with. Not everyone is there for you. And maybe Megan, like, you had friends. I mean, I don't know you. I mean, as if she's going to listen to this, but if there are certain friends you had, maybe as you got bigger, you kind of, it would be good to find some other people that, and not just friends just to have friends, but some people that will protect you and be there for you and like stand up for you, and like, and then another point that you had made about Black women like can't be soft, and it made me think of, I think I've forgotten, it wasn't Oprah. I think it was was it with Oprah's best friend, what's her name?
Is
I
it
don't know if they're
Gail?
still best friends. Yeah, Gail. Yeah, I think it was with Gail. And I think Megan was like crying on the video, and she was crying about what was happening and what happened to her and all this stuff. And if you see the comments below, they're so horrible. Like the comments are like, oh, it's just fake tears, or oh, it's just like saying all these like horrible things to her when she's showing a very vulnerable moment and
Yeah.
she's crying. So clearly she has feelings too, right? And also, I think I don't know if but or I read this too about thinking of like suicide, or thinking of like, because of how horrible it was and all this stuff. And for people to react that way, it's like, it's strange. It's just strange to me how it's like we have to, if we don't fit a certain mold, then we have to be taken down, and we don't care how. Right. And then back to the thing about music also, right? I don't know if words are very powerful, right? We all know this, and sometimes I don't know if our music or the things we decide to say or sing or rap sometimes can have an effect on our realities, right? Or things like that. And then the last thing you said, but the feminism thing, yes, that's why I'm very, like, if anyone were to ask, are you a feminist? Like, I would ask you, what does that mean exactly?
That part.
Because
that part.
what does that mean? Because the definition of feminist,
give me your
has
definition
definitely
to start that
changed.
conversation. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's neither here nor there,
and
but
everywhere all at once. Yes.
Yes. So I don't know if I can call myself a feminist, because the definition has changed. I don't know what that means. Does that mean helping women in education, or does that mean telling men they can't open the door for me? What does it mean? Because it's changed a lot. Feminism is different for Black women and different for white women and different for other ethnicities. It's different in America versus other countries. So the labels, I don't think there needs to be a label for just being a decent, respectful human being. Like, we don't need a label for it. Let me say it again. There is no label for being a great and respectful human being.
There you go.
Yes, whether you like the person or not like them, you can still be respectful and act like, a proper person. And like they always say, act the way you'd want to be treated. So the feminist thing, I'm always kind of like, who is it helping, right? So, and with that said, that goes into us thinking about, what can you do to be, and I won't say to be a better feminist, I'll be, what can you do to be a better human?
There you go.
And Dagny, I
Yes.
guess I'll
Yes.
bars everywhere.
Dropping gems.
So
Yeah.
everywhere. So I think I'll ask Dagny, I'll ask you first. What do
Yeah.
you think? How can we be better humans and support and protect females and Black
Hmm.
females and just
Hmm.
humans in general? And
Hmm.
what can we learn from or this whole thing of Megan and
Hmm.
Tori?
Hmm. I
Yeah.
feel that we got to look at it on an individual level
Yes.
before we can take on society at large type of thing with this issue, right? Because if we do it backwards, it feels like, well, there's too many problems, so it's overwhelming and there's nothing we can do about it. So we should probably go back to just doom scrolling on our phones. But instead, if we do the reverse of really check yourself on what you've been conditioned to believe.
Yes.
As in, when you hear, oh, you know what, this woman, regardless if it's a woman who's a celebrity or a woman in your community, this particular woman experienced violence. Because technically speaking, this could be considered a domestic violence case if we're
Exactly.
claiming, the two people were in a relationship. So when this happens, what is your initial response to it in your own mind before you even start articulating it to other people? What is your first response to it? Oh my goodness, that is so terrible. I hope she's okay. Or if it's someone you know, oh, let me check on her. Is she okay? Does she have everything she needs? Let me make sure I get all the facts. What exactly happened? Who was the perpetuator? How could we de-escalate this? Or is your first reaction, oh yeah, they probably deserved it. I mean, I didn't really like their car anyway. I mean, she or he or they are always too loud anyway, or think they're so everything, or like where is your response coming from? A space of love, from a space of acceptance, from a space of the harmony has been disrupted. How can we bring the harmony back? Or is your response coming from a space of resentment, a space of limited beliefs, a space of
Or
envy or
bitterness.
jealousy or bitterness of, well, I mean, I have too much going on in my life, so I can't even consider thinking about somebody else who has a problem. Like where is it coming from for you?
Yes.
And because I definitely endorse that all forms of violence could have been de-escalated to prevent the violence from happening in the first place, right? And so if you happen to be around when that de-escalation could have occurred, or you happen to be around when the healing afterwards needs to happen, are you choosing to be part of the solution, or are you further perpetuating the problem? That doesn't mean you got to be all up in each other people's business. I don't mean that. I don't mean you have to take on all everyone else's problems. I don't mean that. But really check yourself on, are you actually part of the problem? Is your behavior perpetuating and enabling what outside you will claim is an issue, but you yourself are also mumbling stuff about women you don't know, or mumbling stuff about men you don't really know, or insisting, well, they probably got there because they slept to the top, or they probably got there because they got money from this. They probably got, like, are you further perpetuating the spiral of negativity and gossip and low vibration because you yourself are
low
resentful of how stagnant your own life is because you insist on burying yourself with that negativity? That has nothing, you know what I'm saying? Like, that has nothing to do with the other person. That has nothing to do with the violence outside. That's you. And when you're further perpetuating that, I just feel like you are part of the violence, even though you did not shoot the person in the
bystanders. Bystanders.
Exactly. You're a bystander. That means you're an accomplice to this cycle of violence, physically and figuratively. And so I feel what we can take away from this is, if we want to use this case as an example to start off, as in, okay, you don't want to start off with violence happening in your community if you actually know someone personally who's dealt with the same thing. Because we started off this conversation with this case, what was your initial reaction to this case? Were you concerned when you heard that this person was shot in the foot? Or were you also going on the route of, this happens all the time, it's not that big of a deal? Or even going on the route of how the comments that were noted publicly claiming that she was lying and stuff? Then if we want to go on a gender deal, regardless of what your gender is, we all have been conditioned in some shape or form of what we think certain genders, how certain genders should act and behave and what their roles
Mm-hmm.
are, and when is it appropriate for them to be a victim and when is appropriate for them to be the villain. Are
Yeah.
you taking the time to disentangle yourself from that? Are you taking the time to question that? So the next time
Question.
someone who, so the next time, regardless of gender, when someone says they have a problem or they have been disrespected or they have been violated, do you believe them? Do you ask the right questions? Do you hold space for them? Or because of who they present themselves as, you've already put them in a box to think they're lying or put them in a box to
Mm-hmm.
think they deserved the disrespect or the injustice or the violence that they experienced?
Right. Yes. Yes. Bars, all bars. Yes. Yes. I agree. Yeah. 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 I think just check your headspace, right? Be aware of where your thoughts are going. I do know, obviously, the way the internet works, a lot of the comments are, a lot of bots or people pretending to be robots or
Mm.
people just hiding behind a screen. I'm sure most of those people probably could not say that to Megan's face.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure a lot of them it's very easy to be online and also I guess to add to being aware of your headspace, also, yeah, but be aware of how social media or the interwebs affects you.
Mm.
I think even the people that are most careful can be very affected by social media and how we like it's like we think it's a game. Like I think when people are sending all these messages, I'm kind of like it's not like this is a real person. Like you're
Mm.
saying things to a real live human that went through something traumatic kind of thing. And I think, yeah, and regardless, I like how everything you said, you didn't say, oh, well, you have to be better feminists or you
Mm-hmm.
have to be better. I don't know what the name is for men, a menist. I don't know what the
Mm-hmm.
word is
Mm-hmm.
for it. I don't think they have a word because they're patriarchy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just be aware of, yeah, and think about like your sisters or your brothers. Well, yeah, yeah, sisters, brothers, mothers, and
Yes.
everything.
Yeah.
And be aware of like if you wouldn't want that to happen to them, why would and also it doesn't matter whether you like the person or not. I
Mm.
think that's the main thing. Like I don't think because I think I was what was I think Candace Owens, I think she had a video where she mentioned Megan and talked about it. And I think Candace even said she's like, I'm not interested in her music. I think it's degrading. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
But this thing that happened to her is horrible, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
even if you don't agree with what someone does or how they live their life, or like you don't have to be like a jerk. Like, don't be rude when you
Right.
don't have to be, right? And be aware of your thoughts, because sometimes even if you didn't say anything, your thoughts are important too, right? So yeah, and then just be aware, like, that we have to start small and start from somewhere, I guess. And yeah, and people should question it and be concerned about how the news acted, how it acts with women, and how it picks and chooses who gets protected and who doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
and how like even after the fact and after Megan wasn't even saying anything because she's been quiet this whole time, and we're still attacking her when she's not doing anything. Like she's not the one that gave out the verdict, like,
Yeah.
so yeah, just be aware and for me, I try not to be too whenever I hear about like, oh, I'm a feminist and I'm all this, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know what that means
Mm-hmm.
anymore,
Mm-hmm.
I just think just be a good human. That's the main thing,
Mm-hmm.
and even in light of all this like BLM stuff and everything, I remember the beginning of it, I was very like, oh, I have to do something, like, oh, I can't talk to any white people anymore. Like I can't talk because of everything. It if I was even feeling bad. I mean, to go a little bit on a segue, but
Mm.
even shows I love, like I'm like a really big Supernatural fan. And if
Mm.
anybody knows Supernatural, the two main characters are white.
Mm-hmm.
Whitey, white, white. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the main characters are white too. So I even went through a time where I was like, wait, can I not watch this because there's white people in it? Oh no, my black card, like, but I don't, but, but I think the point is, like, even if you don't like me or you don't like someone, just be decent, just be normal, just treat people how you'd want to treat them. Like, even if you don't like people because of how they look or their skin color or whatever, just be decent. Just don't, act like a decent human. It's not about a label or a conservative or Democrat or just be kind. And also if you don't have all the facts and you're not there, you don't know the person, maybe you shouldn't be writing huge paragraphs about
Mm-hmm.
about Megan. Like, do you know her? Like,
Right. Yeah.
Um, So I think that that is definitely one way, where that's one way to start small and be careful what you say. And yeah, and also like, yeah, because sometimes I'm always kind of surprised because like you have people that have like sisters and stuff, and they'll act one way, and then like they're the ones that say all this horrible stuff about women, and I'm kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
wait, don't you have a mom? I don't
Mm-hmm.
like why you have
Or
a
aren't
mom and
you a
you're
woman yourself? What you
yeah,
doing?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Other
Yep.
women be saying stuff, and I'm just
Yep.
like just because you don't like a girl doesn't mean you have to like, I'm like, oh
Mm-hmm.
well, it's always like, oh well, she must have done something to deserve it or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always like
Mm-hmm.
what? And it shouldn't be so like normal that this violence thing is so like it seemed like, oh, it's just whatever, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of like, this is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Probably should, deal with this. But yeah, just check your headspace, check how you talk to people and whether you're around people or not. Because like you can't be like, oh, in public I act nice and I act like a great person, but in private, in my head, I'm thinking all these evil, horrible things about people. Like,
Right.
no, no, that's not.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just check yourself and check the facts and know that the news and the press can like twist things. And for Megan, I hope she finds the healing that she's younger than I am. So um, that also makes me feel kind of like she's really like she's still in her 20s, isn't she? And she's
Yes.
like going through all this stuff. I mean, I know in some ways she's lived longer than I have because of the stuff she's been through, but
Mm-hmm.
she's young, and I'm sad that she had to like go through all of this stuff
Mm-hmm.
so early in her career kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
before she got stronger. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because I feel
Yes.
like some people, when they've been in the business longer, they know what it's about. If
Mm-hmm.
something comes at them, there's another way they can deal with it,
Yeah.
right? But whereas for her, she only got big when 2019,
Right.
2020,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's very beginning, and it's already like, whoa, like she must be going through so
Mm-hmm.
much, right? And I was so shocked when I saw her when she came back finally, and she was
Mm-hmm.
looking thinner.
Mm-hmm.
Her like the light in her eyes was not there. She just seemed so kind of like, whoa, like just
Mm-hmm.
done with it. She's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't blame her. And I do think this industry does suck the life out of this
Mm-hmm.
entertainment industry does suck the life out of people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then for any, celebrities out there, be careful who your friends are. Not that
Yes.
and just, don't do this thing where, oh, be a good feminist. No, just be a good human. Try your best to be a good human and be careful your thoughts. And even if they are on celebrities that like you don't know, like, they're still real humans. I know the TV and screen makes them look like they're not, but they're still humans. And I I don't know. We need to do better, America, because this does not look this does not look right, you know? And yeah, that's kind of all. I don't know if I can think of anything else to. If we keep on going, we'll be like speaking for like 3 hours, 4 hours about how like, and also like what you said. I like what you said about I like to believe that Black women being the most disrespected. I like to believe that that's not true. I
Mm-hmm.
like to believe that we are protected and like it's just the media and propaganda and silly dumb people online that make it seem as if
Mm-hmm.
I mean oftentimes the minority is louder than the majority,
Yeah.
and sometimes the minority makes it look like everyone thinks that, but it might not be so.
Mhm.
And I know there's always like reasons behind stuff, and there's always politics behind the scenes why you want to make something look like
Yes.
what it looked like kind of thing. So yeah, so it's a sad world out there, but
Mm. But we'll get
yeah,
there. We'll get there. So I
we'll
think
get
this
there. Just be good
was,
and kind humans.
yes. So I think this was a wonderful and juicy conversation. Thank you so
Very
much.
juicy. So
Yes,
much juice. So much
indeed.
juice.
Indeed. Everywhere, anywhere, and all at once. So we also, of
Yes.
course, hope you enjoyed the conversation. And as
Mm-hmm.
always, please let us know your thoughts. There's links in
Mm-hmm.
the show notes of where you can get more information about the podcast and where you could
Yes.
comment because we love hearing from you.
Mm-hmm.
And we will
Mm-hmm.
catch you on the next episode.
All right. Yeah. See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye bye. Take care.